Hello class, this is your instructor Vanessa Lord speaking. This video is going to be about chapter 9 in your textbook on fish and shellfish. So this chapter is going to include the classifications of fish and shellfish, their composition, purchasing information, preparation, how to store them, and current CDC guidelines for food safety issues surrounding fish and shellfish, including mercury intake recommendations for high-risk populations. So eating fish goes way back to before even the beginning of agriculture. And today, even still, millions of tons of edible fish and shellfish are served for human consumption every year. Seafood is an excellent source of nutrients, and it represents a really important protein source in the American diet. So seafood is going to be important for us to discuss as future food and nutrition professionals, because with increasing knowledge about the health benefits of fish and decreased consumption of red meats and poultry, we're going to want to learn how to store, prepare, cook fish and the nutrients present in fish so we can make our recommendations. So let's start with classification of fish and shellfish. So there's more than 20,000 known species of edible fish, shellfish, and other sea mammals, but approximately 250 of these species are harvested commercially in the United States. So fish and shellfish can be classified in three ways: vertebrate or invertebrate, saltwater or freshwater, and lean or fat. Now, please note these aren't either or categories. For example, a vertebrate could live in saltwater or freshwater and could either be lean or fat. But these are just three main categories of ways to classify fish and shellfish. So the vertebrates include the finfish. These are fish that have fins and an internal skeleton. These are different from mammals in the sea because they actually breathe through their gills. So this is maybe the difference between a salmon or tuna and something like a dolphin or a whale. A dolphin and a whale have to come up to the surface of the ocean. So those are mammals, not fish. So we have the vertebrates that includes the finfish and the invertebrates that include shellfish, which are divided further into mollusk and crustaceans. So let's look at what that looks like on a chart. So we have the overall umbrella of fish classified in vertebrate or invertebrate, meaning finfish or shellfish. Then we have our freshwater or our saltwater finfish over here. And of the freshwater, they could be lean or fatty. And of the saltwater, they could be lean or fatty. And this side of the diagram comprises the vertebrates, the finfish, meaning they have a backbone, a skeleton. And then over here we have shellfish. Crustaceans and mollusks fall under the shellfish umbrella. Examples of crustaceans are crab, crayfish, lobster, shrimp. And then examples of mollusks, we have three different kinds of mollusks. We have a bivalve, univalve, and cephalopod. So bivalve is kind of just how it sounds. They're contained within these two hard shells that are hinged together. Bivalve, bi meaning two. The univalves only have one single hard shell. An example of this would be an abalone, a conch, a sea snail. And the cephalopods have a rubbery, soft inner shell. These include the octopus and squid. So we said that two of our classifications are saltwater and freshwater. So the majority of the fish eaten in the United States is saltwater fish. Examples are sole, halibut, cod, flounder, all of these examples listed here. And in general, saltwater fish have a more distinct and stronger flavor, but sole is an exception to this generalization. Examples of freshwater fish are catfish, perch, pike, and trout. We also said a way of classifying fish was lean or fatty. Now, yes, fish are sometimes identified by their fat content, but please note that the term fatty means relative to other fish. Fish are not a very fatty meat compared with most other meat. So our lean fish include these listed here: cod, pike, snapper, halibut, the others that are listed here. And our fatty fish include salmon, mackerel, lake trout, tuna, and the other fish included on this list. But again, we just mean relative to other fish. So a lean fish might only have about 2.5 grams of fat per serving, but a fatty fish about 5 to 10 grams of fat per serving. You might compare this to 3 ounces of steak, which has 13 grams of fat per serving, so much more significant in fat content. So let's continue our discussion by going over the composition of fish. Now, think of the last time you ate fish. It generally has a very tender texture, and this is due to its structure. So there's 3 structural components that contribute to this tender texture when it comes served at the table: collagen, amino acid content, and muscle structure. I'm going to go through each one of these individually. So let's talk about collagen first. So fish muscle has lower amounts of collagen when compared to meat or poultry and land mammals. So if we can remember from chapter 7 and 8 on meat and poultry, collagen tissue is going to make meat tougher. Second, we have the amino acid content. There's an amino acid in meat and poultry known as hydroxyproline. It's also in fish, but in fewer amounts. There's less hydroxyproline in fish than there is in meat and poultry. And without hydroxyproline, the amino acid, the collagen in fish is going to break down more easily at lower temperatures in order to form this tender gelatin. Third, we have muscle structure. So the muscles in fish are not arranged the way that they are in birds and mammals. Let's look at a diagram of this. So while birds and mammals have their muscles arranged in these long bundles, fish have short muscles arranged into layers with large sheets of thin connective tissue separating each layer. So the short muscle fibers are called myotomes, and the connective tissue separating the fibers is the myochomata. Myotomes and myochomata. So the structure of the muscles and the fact that the collagen breaks down to gelatin easily contribute to that nice flakiness that we get with fish. When a fish is perfectly cooked, it'll flake very easily with a fork. Another aspect of the composition of fish is pigments. So when exposed to air during preparation of fish, fish is going to vary in color as a result of the presence of white or pink or red pigments. Now, whether those pigments are pink or white or red depends on what the fish did in its life. So red or dark flesh seen in salmon or tuna has a higher concentration of the slow twitch muscles, meaning the muscles needed for long distance swimming and endurance. Whereas white meat has more fast twitch fibers, which are designed for kind of quick bursts of speed. And a higher content can also contribute to darker color of meat. A higher fat content can also contribute to darker color of meat. So why do salmon have this characteristic pink-orange color? This actually goes beyond these other factors that I just talked about that contribute to pigment. This kind of characteristic, beautiful salmon color that we associate with salmon is actually a carotenoid pigment. Now, remember we learned about the carotenoids in chapter 13 in the vegetable chapter. And that carotenoid pigment comes from the salmon's diet of insects and crustaceans that contain the pigment. Now let's go over how to purchase fish and shellfish. So this slide is related to finfish, the vertebrates. And inspection and grading of finfish is voluntary, and it's based on the appearance of the fish and sanitary conditions of the processing plant. So since inspection is voluntary, then grading is also voluntary because only fish that have been inspected can be graded. So the different gradings are A, B, and substandard, with A being the highest grade. And the grading is based on appearance, texture, uniformity, good flavor, a fresh odor, and an absence of any defects. Shellfish certification is a little bit different. So there's a monthly online publication of the Interstate Certified Shellfish Shippers List. And this is a certification given by the U.S. Department of Commerce. And only fish from certified shippers is permitted to be sold. And this is due to the potential for contamination by microorganisms. If you remember from the chapter on food safety that we did in the second week of the course, that shellfish grown in polluted waters can put people at risk for hepatitis, for parasites, and for other bacterial infections. So shellfish must contain a tag with the certification number, and food service establishments that are selling shellfish must keep that tag for at least 90 days after purchase.